Hello, everyone. I'm Teacher Mike, and this is the second episode of my new series in which I interview people from the United States so that you can practice listening to English while also learning a little bit about the United States and the people of the United States. Our guest on this first episode is my friend Jake, who is now going to introduce himself.
Hello, Mike. Thank you for having me. My name is Jake. As you said, I'm your friend. I am a professor. I teach philosophy at a university. I live in Maryland, and I formerly lived in Alaska. In fact, I was born and raised there. So,
Okay, so like Jake said, he currently lives in Maryland, but he's originally from Alaska. So Alaska is the state that we are going to talk about today. But before we talk about Alaska, we're first just going to talk a little bit about English and any other languages that Jake speaks. So, Jake, what languages do you speak besides English? How well do you speak them, and why did you learn them?
well, I speak Spanish relatively fluently, though with a more limited vocabulary because I learned it as a child. My mom is from Mexico, and so I learned Spanish and English at the same time. I am bilingual effectively. Um, when I was in university, I also took about 2 years of French because it's close to Spanish. I was able to figure it out, but I'm better at reading than speaking. But that's why I learned it. And other than that, I can read a little German but not speak. So
And now I want to ask you two questions about English. So, first question is on a scale of 1 to 10, how good do you think your English grammar is? And the second question is on a scale of 1 to 10, how important do you think English grammar is?
so I'm a university professor. I have published works in journals, which means I have to have pretty good grammar. But that is only professionally. So I mean, I don't want to brag and say I'm a 10 because I make mistakes just like everyone else. So I mean, I'd give myself an 8 or a 9. Um, as for how important grammar is, uh, I mean, I am an academic and I know that uh, usage is what leads language in the right direction, meaning that I don't think grammar is very important except to make yourself understood. And there are various ways to speak in the United States. I live in the East Coast. There's a specific way that African Americans speak that is different from people in the South, that is different from people from Alaska. And so I would put it very low, close to a 2, 3, maybe, just to make yourself understood.
And if you're talking to another native English speaker and they make a grammar mistake, how does that make you feel? Or does that make you feel anything?
I, I honestly, it's unimportant to me. Um, the only times that I matters is I correct my students because other professors might not be so kind, and if they risk making themselves misunderstood, I think that is the only time that it matters. But as far as I am concerned, if I can understand you, we're good.
Okay, what about correcting people whose first language is not English? So, if you're talking to someone who's not a native English speaker and they make a grammar mistake, are there any situations in which you would correct them?
I mean, again, I think if they can make themselves understood, it's important. My mother, for example, uh, never perfected her English, but she made herself understood. And whenever she would, make a mistake, she would actually, her whole move was she would laugh it off, right? As long as you are not at the risk of a very, very bad misunderstanding, uh, if you can make yourself understood, that's all that matters.
And what's something that you would like to tell my viewers who are learning English?
You will make mistakes, as I make mistakes when I speak Spanish. The fact is, we all make mistakes, and the fact that you're trying is more than a lot of other people are doing. And while some people may be less understanding, the people who you really, want to talk to, will make an effort to understand you, right? They will make an effort to understand you, even if you don't get everything right. Because the fact is, communication is important, and to attempt to do it, that's fantastic, right? Anyone who tries that, I think, deserves praise.
Okay, so moving on to our next topic, which is Alaska. So, first question: if a foreign tourist is visiting the United States, would you recommend that they visit Alaska?
So I absolutely would. And the reason is because you will see things that might not be there in 100 years, but also you will see things that you will see nowhere else. The aurora borealis, moose, uh, glaciers. It is a gorgeous place. And I don't think anyone who visits isn't awed at the natural beauty.
And if people do visit Alaska, what towns or cities or areas do you recommend visiting, and what do you recommend that they do in those places? If you could give maybe just two or three places.
Well, you are in luck because there are two or three major locations in Alaska. Anchorage, where I'm from, is the largest city, and that serves as a great place to travel from to go to places like Portage Glacier, a beautiful glacier, and make day trips out to other places nearby, hiking, flat top, etc. Fairbanks, second city, second largest city. There is your best chance to see the aurora borealis, or the northern lights, as we call them, and also, there is a hot spring nearby called Chena Hot Springs where you can go. And in fact, I think they do trips to see the aurora borealis. Finally, there is Juneau in the southeast, and there you will find, that's what our capital is. You can see that, and again, go out and maybe take a ferry, take a cruise, and go see the wildlife.
And any other just general activities that you recommend doing if someone visits Alaska, whether it's in those places or anywhere?
Well, I mean, the Alaska is the outdoors, right? You can ski, you can hike. Uh, People climb the largest, tallest mountain in the United States is Denali in Alaska, um, and of course, you can fish. Right, fishing is a major activity. Hunting is a major activity. All sorts of outdoor stuff is really what you want to do there, at least if you like it.
Can you think of any, maybe just one or two outdoor activities that maybe people might not be familiar with because they're more unique to Alaska?
Absolutely. I mentioned there's only three major cities. The rest of the state is very rural, and a lot of it isn't connected by roads, which is why it's called the bush. It's the wilderness, and you to get there, they use planes, right? Famously called bush planes, where they fly into either onto water or onto the tundra, and you can actually take rides. You can rent out and get a little tour in a bush plane to go see the gorgeous wilderness from high up. Uh, in addition, other modes of transport actually include sled dogs. We call it mushing, where you're on a sled and you're pulled by a team of dogs. And that's traditionally been used, especially in the winter, obviously, to get goods, especially in cases of emergency, to rural locations that otherwise don't have access to roads.
And are there any foods that are unique to Alaska? And if so, would you recommend trying them?
Oh, certainly. So obviously, most people, well, not obviously, most people live near the coast. And so there is a lot of fishing. And I think one of my favorite foods is smoked salmon. They take it and smoke it with, I think it's alder wood, and you can eat it, just plain. You can eat it on bread. Halibut is a fish that is very common in Alaska as well. Very good. They fry it up, fish and chips style. Um, and if you want to get weird, and I mean, this not weird, but definitely not up to most people's palates. There is a dish that Native Americans in Alaska, I think Inuit specifically, but others do as well, make this dish called akutuk. And it's a type of sort of ice cream, but it's made with the fat from caribou or moose or whale or seal, and it's mixed with berries and a little bit of meat, and apparently it's delicious. I've never had it. Doesn't seem to be my sort of thing, but if you're adventurous, definitely try it. I mean, it sounds interesting.
And what's something else that you think is just unique about Alaska in general? maybe about the state or maybe about the people?
Well, it is, as I said, a very rural place. It has a lot of Native Americans, and uniquely among, I think, states, the Native Americans are better off because of the treaties that were signed. But I think one of the most obvious things is the extreme variation of seasons. During the summer, it can, the sun barely goes down, and if you're above the Arctic Circle, it doesn't. And in the winter, in Anchorage, we would get 5 hours of sunlight in December, and if you were above the Arctic Circle, the sun doesn't come up. So that's very unique.
Is there anything that you think is unique about the people of Alaska?
Well, because it is so rural and because the temperatures can be very extreme, people are incredibly self reliant, right? They have to be because when something goes wrong, and it always will, uh, they have to be up to the task. They have to be prepared. I think in a way that people in major cities don't have to be as much, especially with natural disasters like earthquakes, which we are prone to, and even tsunamis, which are, of course, caused by earthquakes.
And what's something that you think would surprise people who have never been to Alaska?
Well, I mean, I think a lot would, but just because people think we live in igloos, there's polar bears everywhere. That's not true, right? Anchorage is a large city, 300,000 people. In fact, one of the neighborhoods where I lived when I was in my 20s is one of the most diverse neighborhoods. I think it's in the top 20 uh, in the United States, if not on the Western coast at least. And you will find any cuisine. I heard now there's a Somalia restaurant open now. Right, we have all sorts of people from all over the world, and so you definitely will see far more things than you expect to see when you think of Alaska.
And what's one thing that you could tell people either about the cost of living or about the economy?
So Alaska is known for one major export, oil, right? Which means a large amount of people work for the oil companies on the northern slope in Prudhoe Bay, where the conditions are incredibly rough because it's near the North Pole. And then I think a lot of other people work for the government because there's a military base there. Um, but because it's so far north and everything needs to be shipped in or flown in, everything's definitely far more expensive. That is a downside. And the further outside of the cities you are, it's even worse because it has to be flown in on these small bush planes that I mentioned earlier, which means a gallon of milk can be $10 possibly at times, which is definitely hard for the residents of very rural villages.
Is there anything that's sometimes cheaper in Alaska?
No, actually, everything is more expensive. That is one of the downsides, unfortunately.
Okay, and what about language? Are there any English words or phrases that are used in Alaska that are not used in other states?
So, given Alaska's position, the words that we have that are unique are either related to the relation to of Alaska to other places, the length of time you've been there, and snow, because that's a major thing. So we refer to the rest of the United States minus Hawaii as the lower 48. And when we talk about people who are, or rather the rest of the United States as well, we often say outside with the capital O, which means outside of Alaska. Um, an old mining term for newcomers was chichaco, which comes from Chinookwood, meaning tenderfoot. Um, and people who have been there for a while, again, old miners, they would be called sourdough. In addition, relative to snow, we have the term termination dust, which is the first snow on the top of the mountains that you can see in the distance. That means summer is over. And of course, spring comes around March or April, and that's when everything starts to melt, which means we call it breakup. When everything breaks up, all the ice breaks up, and there is a lot of water just flowing outward and from the mountains.
With termination dust and breakup, how would you use those in a sentence?
Termination dust, I would say, oh, did you see the termination dust on the mountains? It looks like it's going to be a winter soon. And as for breakup, I would say, breakup is coming a little late this year because it hasn't arrived, say, by mid-March, right? We would say breakup's a little late.
Okay, and there was also a Native American word that you mentioned. Could you explain that one more time, just a little bit slower?
Absolutely. So the term is chichaco. I am definitely not pronouncing that right, I'm sure, but um, it just means someone who's tender. It's sort of a newcomer, right? Someone who's fresh. Because one of the things is, as I said, you have to be self reliant, and so the newcomers are especially likely to be ill prepared, which is why that term was used, right? Because, it marked out that, you need to be careful and we need to watch out for you.
And for anyone who doesn't know these two words, because I think some people might not, newcomer is exactly what it sounds like. A newcomer is someone who has come recently, someone who has arrived there recently. They're new to that area. The other one is ill prepared. Ill prepared basically just means unprepared. You are not prepared for the situation. Are there any unique accents in Alaska?
So the Native Americans, and I say this broadly because there are many tribes, have unique accents. And, often English is their second language as well. So, it's normal to hear that. Um, Beyond that, as I said, there's a lot of people, especially from Asia, from Samoa, from the Philippines. So you'll see a lot of those. As for a unique Alaskan accent, I think it is closer to the Washington or the Californian accent, especially. But of course, everyone thinks they don't have an accent, as we all know.
And so now that you live on the East Coast of the United States, do you ever miss living in Alaska? Or maybe if you don't really miss living there, are there any things that you miss about it?
So I will be frank. I did not like the cold. I did not like the darkness. But the outdoors were definitely gorgeous, and that's why I would recommend anyone go visit there because it is beautiful. It's just not for me. And so, I have made a comfortable life out here. But again, I would say if you have the ability, you should go because you will definitely see some things you probably have never seen before.
Okay, and now for our questions about the United States in general. So, what do you like most about living in the United States?
I like the fact that people from all over the world are here. I like the fact that I can go and find food from all kinds of cuisines, and that not only do other people like it, but they will go out of their way to support it, right? I can get Honduran food, I can get Sichuan food, I can get all kinds of food that would be hard to get, I think, in many other countries. And so I think that's a strength. It's the diversity, and I just experience it through food, but you also see it in community, and I think that's something that is very unique. Is that you see all kinds of people living side by side.
And then, what do you dislike most about living in the United States?
I again, I will be frank, having visited other countries, um, everything is centered around cars. If you are not in certain metro areas, I wish we had a better train system. Uh, the one we have barely functions, and I wish we had far better public transit because, while we may have gorgeous wilderness, the fact is, it's far more environmentally friendly to have public transit, and it's easier. And so I think that's one big flaw, especially because it isolates us. On the bus, I can run into a new person. In a car, I'm there by myself, and I think that isolates us. And I wish we had less of that.
What does it mean to you to be American, or what makes someone American? Do you have any thoughts on this?
You're here. I know some people would like to make that more narrow, but as far as I'm concerned, uh, I think I mentioned the good parts about being American. Look, if you're open, if you're welcoming, if you're capable of recognizing that not everyone's going to have the same idea. In fact, I would say, you know, the big thing about Americans is we're individualists in many senses compared to other countries.
And what's something that you think would surprise people who have never been to the US?
How friendly we can be. I think we can get a reputation for being standoffish, especially with crime and other things. But the fact is, at the heart of it, most people are great. They will go out of their way to help you. They will, really, really make sure, especially if you're lost, you're confused, you're having problems. They will go out of their way to help you. They really will, and it's just unfortunately, we for understandable reasons might have a sort of reputation as less than friendly, which at times is warranted. But I think in general, you would see just be surprised how welcoming people can be.
All right, and final question. What's one thing that you want people from other countries, especially my viewers, to know about the United States?
You're learning English, great. We Most people in this country will be happy that you are learning, that you're trying to communicate, and will do their best to understand you if you deal with them. Maybe there might be some people who are rude, but by and large, people are friendly, as I said before, and they will do their best to try to help you out because we have a lot of people here, including citizens, who don't speak English entirely correctly. Don't be scared. And please, we are by and large very welcoming. So I would say, please, if you want to talk to us or visit or anything like that, I encourage you to.
All right, and so yeah, those are all of our questions. Jake, thank you very much for taking the time to share your knowledge about Alaska with everyone.
It was a pleasure to be able to talk to you, and I wish your students good luck.
And finally, if you haven't yet watched episode 1 of this series, you can do that right here.